Hi. I thought it was time for a video update since my last video was about how my primary caregiver deeply traumatized me last Tuesday. And I don't know if that might be causing people some sense of worry and wonder about, how it resolved. Um, Bad news first. It resolved uh, in a way that is actually a non-resolution because I left a voicemail for the office where the nurse practitioner works that very evening, and I knew they were closed, but I just wanted to leave as a message. Hey, I am no longer a patient of Ashley Bunge's. I would like to be removed from her care. I just made it very straightforward and just said, I'm not going to be seeing her anymore, so I'm revoking my consent to her accessing my healthcare files, and I just want some confirmation that this message was received and that action was taken, or if there's anything I need to do to make that happen, just give me a call and let me know. As of today, it has been 7 days since I left that voicemail, and the nurse's office has not gotten back to me. It's kind of triggering my feelings of paranoia about it, because of course I'm really concerned that this person who felt it was appropriate to not set any boundaries with me in the conversation until the moment when she decided I needed to go see the psychiatric assessment unit, which was a deeply abusive thing to say. I'm actually writing about it now because this pain has inspired so much of a fire for justice in me. But I'm also working on my trauma in such a way that I'm not going to put myself back into contact with this person for any reason. And I'm not willing to even entertain the thoughts of how she might learn from this, because I'm just it's not my business to think about the growth of a person who's abused me. I'm going to focus on me. I'm just going to keep focusing on me and keep focusing on what I can do to move forward. Unfortunately, I had to call the office again yesterday just to check in and be like, hey, so it's been 5 days, 6 days since I left this voicemail. No one's gotten back to me. That's unusual. I tried to call and I didn't get through. So then later last night, I called and left another message with a little bit more information of just hey, I called, 6 days ago, left a voicemail explicitly asking for a call back and also for a very specific action to be taken. I have concerns now that that voicemail wasn't received and that action wasn't taken, which means that this person who severely breached my trust last week has had access to my medical files for several days after the point that I revoked that access, that I revoked consent. So I'm just kind of worried about that. I'm also seeking new primary care, and I'm concerned that I won't be able to access that new primary care if my file is assigned to someone. So I was please call me back. And I also even said on the voicemail, which I was this might not shine me in the best light, but in the voicemail I was this is not okay. I understand that people at the office may not want to talk to me, or I'm worried that people may not want to talk to me, and if that's the case, just send me a voicemail or an email. I don't actually need to have a conversation with anybody. I just need the information. So yeah, I don't know what to expect. Honestly, I wouldn't mind speaking to whoever manages that clinic, but I honestly think that if I reach out and ask for a manager, that I am very likely to not receive that care because of the way that clinic has treated me in this last 7 days of just utter silence. I don't expect that they operate according to the rules, honestly. I mean, the nurse didn't know them, so why should the rest of the staff know them? And yeah, it's making me very curious about digging into healthcare law, actually, because I am quite, well, if I start going down that road, it's going to be a rant. So I'm not doing that. This is a quick update. Symptom-wise, it's been a very interesting week because having trauma from my past means that I'm not just having a really intense moment of being mistreated by someone in power who has power over me. That had its own kind of wave of, the following hours and then days of how I was processing that event. It's the old stuff that comes up after some time. So it was the initial wave of being hugely numbed out, distraught, just like feeling totally powerless and helpless in my body. And yeah, trying to come back from that with care. That was like the first 3 or 4 days. And then it was 4, 5, 6 days, like this area now, where I'm starting to see all the old shit come up and play out in my system, where I'm having these really disconnected experiences of my emotions and symptoms, where my body feels like it's really apart from me. And I'm having to be like, what's going on over there with my body? But I'm like in it. And why has this changed so much? But of course I know the answer why. It's trauma. But it's like, whoa, I was in such a good place before that happened, that this is a very clear contrast to like being thrust back into how I lived for 25 years until I started really seriously digging into trauma therapy. I'm like, oh my God, this feels like time travel. But also it's distressing in this moment to feel like I am no longer the age that I am, and I'm no longer have the perspective anymore, like that my body is thrust into the past without my choice in the matter. And I had a lovely friend Paul Tucker came down and helped me. That's why that ladder is out. He helped me with some things that were unsafe for me to do alone. And as lovely as that visit was, I had a migraine after. And I was telling him, oh, it's been like a few weeks since I've had a migraine. And then he left and I immediately had a migraine. And I was like, oh my God, this is so unfortunate. I think I'm going to be hermiting for quite a bit longer. Like, I think you're not going to see me out in the world for, I don't know, at least a few more months, if not like a year, a couple of years. Like, this is obviously something very deep, and it's not one thing. Like, I am a community of experiences in this body. But yeah, I'm a little bit more bad news in the sense that in order to access non-traumatizing care, I am realizing that I need a psychiatric assessment and a PTSD diagnosis, because I have told every healthcare practitioner I've ever had that I have PTSD, but since it's not on my chart, they don't believe me and they don't treat me like I have it. So I am seeking the PTSD diagnosis. I felt very lucky that the one day I made like something like 14 phone calls to every person who's listed as doing PTSD assessments on the Association of Psychology Newfoundland website. Called them all, left a bunch of voicemails. Someone got back to me over email pretty quickly and said, hey, like, I can't take you anytime soon, but we could set you up for the future. However, there's like a PhD student program that's starting up in just a few days where you could get a reduced cost PTSD assessment. So I'm going to give you the email of the person to get yourself in there. And I was like, oh my God, this is so aligned. This feels like the timing. It just like perfectly worked out. However, I sent in that referral, and the person who's in charge of the program sent it back to me and said, because you listed having accommodation needs for this assessment, you're not a good fit for the assessment, and it would be unethical for me to accept you. Now, this is a really big problem in healthcare, a really big problem, that they will do the care work of asking if you need assessment or if you need accommodations, but use those accommodations to weed you out of the process. Because I, in good faith, put the accommodations that I would like, because I learned about what the process is. A 5-hour day of testing would be really challenging for me. Like, it would probably thrust me into pain, potentially migraines, for who knows how many days. So I said it would be best for me if it was split up and was 2 half days or even 3 days at a shorter amount of time. That would be nice. Other than that, my accommodations, I can completely take care of myself. And then she just writes back and says, yeah, well, we can't guarantee that you would get those accommodations, so I'm rejecting you from the program. Like, I'm sorry, this must be disappointing, but like, you should just go and do it in a healthy and proper way, like through the regular channels, which, by the way, cost an extra $1,000. At no point did she say, hey, if we can't accommodate that, do you have supports in place? If we can't accommodate that, would you still be interested in coming? It was just a flat out like, oh, you said you need something, you're canceled. I'm going to be writing a lot about this in the future. So I was hoping to be starting in that program today, but I was rejected. I did write back. I've been posting on Instagram about the ways that I do that. it's extremely exhausting. It definitely took a lot of my energy to like receive those rejections and write back my responses, and I'm just kind of letting it go now. But yeah, that could have been an accessible diagnosis for me that would have made my healthcare accessible. No one is willing to do the work. And those who are willing to do the work are not systemically supported to do it. So everything is fucked, and you're going to hear me writing about this a lot more in the coming months and weeks because I've been finding writing to be very therapeutic lately. So I'm leaning in, and I'm not placing any productivity pressure on myself. I'm just like, whenever I feel I have the like headache capacity to do some writing, I will. I mean, I really want to be writing today, but I can't go to the screen. I can just feel it in like the sensitivity and the pain in this part of my head, and I have to drive later, so I can't afford to have a migraine because if I get a migraine, I can't drive. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm gonna go.